Hello everyone, welcome back. So, it's my great pleasure to announce that Xilonen is in fact a really solid battery for someone like Noelle. Once again, Noelle's massive energy needs, partly due to her skill not generating particles to begin with, can be easily alleviated, and this time with one of the currently considered strongest supports in the game. So, as someone who really likes Noelle, I'm naturally very excited to share this information. But first, don't forget to subscribe. Okay, this is going to be the second in what I'm hoping to be a very long series of videos talking about all sorts of teams and interactions with Xilonen. So if you subscribe and ring the bell, you will be notified of the latest videos. And by my count, 94% of y'all haven't subscribed yet, so maybe consider doing it anyway, because obviously it doesn't hurt you and it does make YouTubers feel better in the morning about themselves, so we do like that. Alright, enough stalling. Let's get into it. Alright, let's get into it. We're here with Noelle and the Music Centaur, which is what we're going to be going up against for this demonstration, because the Music Centaur has a gigantic ass Geo shield, so we do like that. You may actually recognize this team as well. It is basically the Navia Noelle team that I have liked for the longest time. And just like that, we've managed to funnel a fair bit of geoparticles into Noelle. And we can do it again. And one more time for good measure. And as you can see, Xilonen was able to very successfully funnel her geoparticles back to Noelle. So, as you can see, Xilonen's skill, it does in fact generate a lot of geoparticles, namely 4 geoparticles. That seems to still be the case. But one thing we need to look at is how Xilonen's skill actually generates those geoparticles. Because it turns out it's not the kicks. Whoa! It's not the kicks that actually do, well, the particle generation. So if I were to dash like so, and then do a kick, I can kick as many times as I want. I can even get the A1 passive, and it still won't work. It is actually, once they've landed, the dash itself that generates our 4 geoparticles, like so. So that means that the gameplay loop that we're going to actually have to practice if you want to use Xilonen as a Noelle battery is like really quickly in the space of that brief moment of time where Xilonen has her particles flying towards her. You want to do the 2 kicks and then immediately swab. Just like that. So, one more time, just for good measure. I would probably do the Alt 2 in my case to just immediately swap over and start using Noelle's Alt, as opposed to what I just did, which was try to swap over and use Noelle's shield. This is not impossible, but it does take practice, so this is going to have to be something you want to practice if you actually want to do this. But thankfully, the main thing is that your initial dash doesn't really generate any particles if you don't hit anyone with that initial dash. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. This is also the case as well if you're playing Favge Xilonen. Now luckily with Favge Xilonen you also have the kicks, but the dash itself also does damage, meaning if you build enough crit and your dash actually ends up critting, then you once again have that small window of opportunity to do those 2 kicks in order to get the A1 passive and then immediately swap over to Noelle so that she catches those particles. Obviously, I'm not going to be comparing Navia and Xilonen in terms of things like team DPS. I'm sure the Genshin Impact players can devour themselves over that. The main thing I want to note is that with Navia, she's a little bit more loosey-goose when it comes to funneling energy particles to Noelle, because her energy particles are generated when her shotgun hits something. That actually gives you plenty of time to swap to Noelle and catch that energy. Of course, Navia's shotgun starts with 2 initial charges, but it does have a cooldown of 9 seconds as opposed to Xilonen's entire skill, which has a cooldown of 7 seconds. So technically, Xilonen's dash is a little bit faster. And it's important that we talk about the dash because Xilonen's Res Shred lasts for 15 seconds, which I don't know if you've realized, but that happens to be 1 second more than twice her cooldown of 7 seconds. What that actually means is that every second use of a skill, you don't actually have to do the kicks. I suppose one way where you can play Xilonen Noelle is dash, kick, kick in order to get the A1 passive, and then try and funnel those particles to Noelle. Good luck with that. And then afterwards, dash. And then immediately swap back to Noelle. You have plenty of time, and then dash, kick, kick, repeat, right? Every other dash therefore isn't nearly as tight of a timing window to funnel that energy to Noelle as I have previously described. And remember, Xilonen doesn't care about her ult in a team like this. Okay, I suspect I'm going to be repeating this quite a lot in the upcoming videos as part of this series, but let's talk about this. The build for Xilonen, especially in a team like this, is going to depend ever so slightly on your weapon choice, especially with regards to swords like Peak and Favge. Now, Favge is Favge, of course. Obviously, you know what it is. It boosts energy for Noelle and the team, like Farina. But Peak offers more buffs to Noelle, particularly if you pair her up with the scroll set. Peak is also very useful if your team consists of multiple elements, especially elements that can't coexist together. So let's say the higher Farina. It's really hard to use the scroll set to buff the highest damage if that's something you want to do, or I guess Shangling Farina if that's something you want to do. So at that point, Peak actually has an additional use of being that global buff. But I'll talk about this a bit more, I guess, when I inevitably do a video on Peak Patrol Song itself, because I feel like Peak Patrol Song is a little bit underrated as well. If you don't happen to have Peak or Favge, then the build that you have on Xilonen doesn't really matter. So long as you have a 4-piece scroll set, you're pretty much good to go. I do want to also note though, Sack Sword was something that I thought should be pretty good. It doesn't work. For some reason, it doesn't reset her cooldown as expected. It seems to reset the cooldown of her dash, but her dash doesn't actually have a cooldown in and of itself. I don't know if there's like some sort of weird oversight going on with Sack Sword and Xilonen, but it doesn't work. So that's not really an option that I would recommend over anything else at this particular moment in time. Now, in terms of Xilonen's artifacts, because this is a Double Geo Fech team, yeah, scroll set. That's it. That's really the only requirement, and you should use that, and that's basically it. If you're using Peak, then, you know, aim for at least 2865 defense before the sword buff, and that way you'll get full Peak Patrol Song value. And then, you know, outside of that, you could just build however you like. Feel free to build a DPS build if you want. That's entirely up to you. If you're using Favge, then obviously you just want as much crit rate as you can while still using the scroll set. And then you don't really have to worry about Xilonen's defense at all because you have Noelle. And Noelle's the one who's healing the team anyway. Ergo, the amount of defense you have on Xilonen's build at that particular moment in time using Favge, completely irrelevant. With any other weapon, again, your build is completely irrelevant. Just make sure you have a scroll set. If you want to have some sort of a goal to put your mind to while you're farming for Xilonen, then I guess I would recommend defense, crit rate. Crit rate. Because that way you have the flexibility if you decide to later switch to Favge or Peak Patrol Song. And I just want to briefly mention something about constellations as well. If you're aiming for any triple Geo team with Xilonen and Noelle in the future, i.e. Xilonen, Noelle, Goro, for example, well, you're going to need C2. Because it turns out that when you don't have C2, Xilonen's Geo Res Shred just disappears the moment you swap away from her. And the goal of this team is Noelle damage, which means you're going to be swapping away from Xilonen. If you happen to have C2 Xilonen in a triple Geo team, then it turns out that the Geo Res Shred actually persists after you swap out from Xilonen. This is as confirmed by friends of the channel and IRL friends. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. So that's Xilonen, the Noelle battery. And, you know, she's not just giving Noelle a bunch of energy, she's also obviously giving Noelle a lot of DPS buffs, and we do like that. Whilst I normally don't advocate for a double healer team, let's be real here, Noelle's actually a DPS in this team, and Xilonen's focus isn't healing. Her focus is on just res shredding and damage percent buffing, well, the entire team, especially if you're using People Control Song. So that's really, really nice. Let me know what you think about all this in the comments below. Are you a based Noelle player? Let me know in the comments. Otherwise, hope you guys enjoyed. If you like this video, hit that like button, subscribe for more Genshin Impact action, and until next time, I will see you guys later. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Unturned. Shower me with praise. Time to shine. As a dutiful maid